was the night before Jesus' crucifixion. The Last Supper is over. Judas is off somewhere with the high priest, striking his bargain. They're arming the temple guards, getting ready to come and arrest Jesus. Meanwhile, Jesus and the 11 have left the place where they celebrated the Last Supper and are headed towards the Garden of Gethsemane. The moon is full, or nearly so. We know this because the Passover was at hand and the Israelite calendar is a lunar calendar. Scholars believe that as they made their journey, they passed by the gates of the temple. Above those gates was a depiction of a grapevine with all of its branches. And it is believed that it is at this spot that Jesus, who loved to use visual illustrations, stopped and made the following statements to his disciples. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Some wood makes really great firewood. It's a joy to split. It comes out almost like dimensional lumber. It makes you feel like you really know what you're doing and are an outstanding wood splitter. You are a firewood genius when you're splitting something straight grain. Red oak, ash, especially if it's frozen, it hits the wedge and it just pops. It's like creating 2x4s almost. It just jumps into place and makes a great rank of firewood. Other wood is not so much fun to split. Places where there's a branch, where a branch connects to the trunk, where a branch forks. Sometimes it's called a crotch. If it was sawed into lumber, it's where there would be a knot. It's really hard to split. If you're using a splitting maul, it will make you hate your life. If you're using a hydraulic splitter like I'm using today, it makes the engine on the wood splitter say unhappy sounds and smoke come out of the exhaust pipe, and it's bad news. And it doesn't even make pretty firewood. It's hard to split. It doesn't stack as well. You have to really fit it in, and it makes the rank lean. But interestingly, for the same volume and the same moisture, a cubic inch at the same moisture of straight grain wood will weigh less than the same cubic inch of crotch wood, where the grain is crooked and odd. It has more BTUs. It will last longer in a fire. When I was a kid, my grandpa and his brother and my uncle sold firewood together. It was part of their farm operation. And we had one customer that would come, and he would climb all over our wood piles, picking out those crotch pieces. And he'd buy a whole truckload of just that, or as much as he could get, because he knew it would make more heat and it would last longer. And I've read that the cells in this part of the wood are denser, then the cell walls are thicker than they are in the straight grain wood. It's as if the tree knows that it needs to hold on to that connection. It doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of the branch. If this connection is compromised, everything is going to come crashing down. If this connection fails, there will be no leaves for the miracle of photosynthesis to take place. If there is a breach in this connection, there aren't going to be any buds. Without this connection, fruit and seed are not going to be created. The connection isn't everything. There will need to be other parts of the branch. But if this connection is not maintained, nothing good is going to happen. It seems like that might be what Jesus had in mind when he made the following statement in John chapter 15, verse number 6. He says, "If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned." So often we look at statements like this as an act of God in judgment, but I don't think that's the way he meant it. That's certainly not the context it's in. I think he's just simply telling us the practical progression of what's going to take place. It's not God saying, if you break this connection, I'm going to be really upset and I'm going to come and do really bad things to you. That's not what's happening here. It's Jesus speaking to his disciples on the night before his crucifixion, when they're going to go through the very likely the greatest storm that they ever faced in their life. They've walked away from everything to serve him and given their lives to him, and he's investing in them, and he wants them to make it. He wants them to do well. He wants their lives to bear fruit. His church is depending on it. And so with love and concern, he speaks to them hard words of truth. They lived close to the land. All of them have seen a branch torn from the trunk of a tree by a storm. They've seen the leaves wither. They've watched as fruit that was not yet fully developed, but well on its way with promise, and then the branch is severed and that fruit dries up and becomes useless. They realize that when that happens, there is nothing else to do with that branch than for it to be discarded. This isn't a threat. This isn't, I don't believe, a statement of judgment from an angry gray-haired guy in the sky, as many in our culture see God. I don't believe that at all. I believe this is a gentle, loving Jesus speaking to his disciples whom he loved, and by extension to each and every one of us today, saying, you have to keep this connection. When the storm comes and the wind blows, you're going to need this connection. But that's not the only time. When you're in a season of bearing fruit and God is doing great things in your life and through you and using you in mighty ways, it's a dangerous time. It's dangerous because it would be easy to neglect our connection to him. But friends and neighbors, during seasons of fruit is when we need to make sure that connection is stronger than just about any other time. When others are relying on us, when someone else is counting on our strength, we can't neglect that most important of all connections. The connection isn't glamorous. It's not fancy. Firewood from these crotch pieces isn't sold for decoration to sit in someone's living room and just look at and never be burned, because it's not pretty. It's not fancy. But it's vitally important. This isn't a practical how-to lesson or message. Those are important. Honing our skills in prayer, learning to be a better communicator with the Most High, developing practical systems to prompt us to spend time in His Word. These things are important, and perhaps at some point we'll spend time with them. That's not our purpose today. Today's message is simply one of encouragement, to nudge us in the direction to keep doing the things that keep the connection. Without Him, we can do nothing. If our connection with Him is lost, nothing good's going to happen. And while there are other things that are important, there's nothing that's more important than our connection. This has been the Journal of a Country Pastor. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.